This is the complete guide to editing with iMovie on Mac. We're going to be covering a full iMovie tutorial running through a video editing project step by step to show you exactly how to use it, including some of the more advanced features, the tricks and effects to help you create better videos much faster. So you've made it here, so you already know that iMovie is a great option when it comes to video editing software on Mac. Now, while it's always been relatively easy to pick up and use, there has been some big improvements in the last few years that mean that it's not just great for beginners, but even some more experienced editors too. So whether you're brand new to iMovie or you've been using it for a while, we're gonna cover everything you need to know, all the key features to be aware of, plus a ton of tips to help you maximize your efficiency along the way. Now, if you have been using it for a while, then drop a comment down below while you're watching to share your #1 tip for using iMovie to help those out that are newer. Okay, so here we are in iMovie. Now, this is the first thing you'll see when you open up the program. Any of your previous projects will be in here, or if this is the first time opening it, then you'll just have this option here to create a new project. So we're going to click on this one now, and we're going to select Movie. So a quick rundown on the interface here. Over here is where you can access all of your files, your photos, and your video assets. Up the top here, you can switch between your media, your project files that you're using, your audio, titles, backgrounds, and transitions. Now we will be covering these in more detail as we go through. Over here is your playback window, or where you can preview your masterpiece that you're editing down, and you've got some tools and controls and things across the top here. Below that, we've got our playback controls here to play, to skip forward to the next clip and back to the previous clip. We can also maximize our playback if we want to play back our video full screen, and we can record a voiceover for our video by pressing this button here. Down the bottom here, we've got our timeline. This is where we're going to be editing our video down. We've got a settings button up here, which is going to give us our project settings. And now if we want to go back to our projects area to select or switch between different projects, we can click up here. And right up in the top right-hand corner is our export button to save out our video. So that's a quick rundown on the overall interface. Let's start editing. So the first thing you want to do is to import your primary video footage. So we can come up the top here to File, Import Media. We can go ahead and then select the files that we want to use. Now you can either go in and individually pick the files that you want. You can hold down Command to select multiple files, or in this case, where everything that I want to use is inside of this folder, I can select the folder and hit Import Selected, and all of those files and folders that are in there are going to be brought in. So now we've imported those files into our project, and we can access those at any time up here under Project Media, My Movie. Okay, from here you want to import your primary footage, your main camera angle, down into your timeline. And we can just click and drag to drop that entire clip down. Before we get into the actual editing, it's a good idea to come over to this settings area here now that we have a clip down in the timeline, and we can customize up what this looks like. So we can adjust the clip size to make it a little bit bigger if you've got a big screen. And we can also specify if you want to have the audio waveforms on or off. So for me, I personally like to have them on, as I'm going to be editing down videos where there's a lot of speaking involved. Now at any time, if you want to zoom in and out on your timeline, we can grab this little slider here and zoom in. Or we can use the keyboard shortcuts Command- and Command+ to zoom in and out. So let's go back to the start of our clip here now and start trimming this down. So let's assume that we want to have our video start at this point here and remove everything up until that point. There's a couple of different ways that we can do this. We can press Command-B on the keyboard, and that's going to blade or to split our clip in two. So I now have a left clip and a right clip. So we can remove this first one by pressing Delete on the keyboard, and now our video starts right at that point. Now if I undo this, Command-Z, Command-Z, another way that we can do this is by selecting our clip. We can grab this left handle here. You can see our cursor changes, and we can drag this across to where we want our video to start. So just before I start talking. So let's go across to the end. I'm going to zoom out, come and click on the end of the video here, and then we're going to zoom back in. So we're finished speaking here, and that's where we'll want to finish the video. So I can again grab this end handle, I can drag it back to where we want the video to finish. So now let's say we want to remove this big gap in the middle here. I can come back across, and again we can blade or split our clip at this point, Command-B. Now I could come over here and add another cut and delete that section, or again I can just grab that handle and slide it back to where I want that clip to start. So the idea here is that we're going through and we're using a combination of splitting our clips, using that blade tool, deleting clips, or adjusting the in and out point or the start and finish time of these clips until we're just left with all the best takes and all the things that we actually want to use in our video. So you want to go through now, remove any bad takes, any mistakes. So all we're left with at the end here is all the best takes and the footage that you actually want to use inside of your edit. Once that's done, we've essentially got a heap of little clips here on the timeline. Now, if you want to pick something up and move it around and adjust the order of these, we can just click and drag on a clip and we can drop it back in wherever you would want it by moving these chunks of content around. So now we've got the primary footage sorted. The next step is to bring in any overlay or B-roll footage into your video. So I've got a couple of extra clips up the top here. Let's grab this one here and drop it down onto our timeline. But instead of dropping it down the bottom here, we're going to drop it on top of where we actually want it. So now if I'm just moving my mouse cursor past here, we can see that I'm talking. Then at this section, we've got some overlay footage, and then it will go back to me talking afterwards. Now these clips will work just the same as regular clips. We can adjust the start point and the end point. So let's say that we wanted this to start about here. Then we could add a cut, Command B, and then we could start it again from here. So let's remove that section before it. Press Command B to add a cut. Let's select this piece and remove that. And let's have this play through until it's picked up until about here. So we can just shorten that clip back to where we want it to finish. And then just like all of our other clips, we can pick these up, we can move them around so that they're showing where we want them to in our edit. So you want to go ahead and add in any B-roll or overlay footage into your edit at this point. From there, we're going to add in any titles or graphics that you want to use in your videos. So let's come up to the top here to titles. And in here, there's a lot of different presets and things that you can use to literally drag and drop onto your video. If we put our mouse over, we can see that some of them are animated, whereas some of them are just static titles. For this one here, I'm just going to grab a basic title. Let's go this one here, reveal lower third. And I'm going to click on it. I'm going to drag it down onto the timeline where I want that to appear. And we can see it shows up there as its own little clip. Now I'm going to zoom in on this section. Again, just like any other clip, we can pick it up, we can move it around, we can adjust how long it's going to be on screen for by using the handles on the edge. So we're going to use this as a name card that will come on screen. So the video will start and then the title will appear down the bottom for that length of time. So to edit this, we just want to double click on it and then we can select the text up the top here and type in what we'd like. Let's type in Justin Brown. Now up here, we can adjust the colors, we can adjust the fonts as well. And we've also got the size here too. So let's make this a little bit smaller. And you can see now if we scrub through, then this one has an effect on it. Kind of fades on screen, slides across a little bit, and then it fades back out. So really easy to add text into your videos, just dragging and dropping these presets at the top and then customizing them up as you need to. Now, if you are looking for something a little bit fancier, Placeit is an amazing tool to help you generate motion graphics and text effects that you can easily then use in your videos. So in terms of a video intro, if we come back over here to My Media, I've got one here that was quickly created in Placeit. I can drag and drop that down into our timeline here. So we've got the intro piece here where I'm introducing the video. Then it would start playing a video intro and then back into our content. Now we have a full tutorial on Placeit that is linked up in the cards. So now that you've got all of your titles in there, next up we're going to look at any transitions or effects if you want to use them in your video. So if I come up the top here to transitions, there are some pretty simple ones that are built in that again we can just click and drag and drop onto our timeline. Now with some of these things, you really don't want to go overboard. Some of these can really cheapen your video, so I'd say use these sparingly. But the ones that I would normally use would be a cross dissolve and maybe a fade to black or a fade to white. But all we need to do is just to click and drag. Let's say we want the cross dissolve and we just need to drop it down between the two clips here. You can see we've got that square has appeared. We now have a transition between these two clips. So you can see with a cross dissolve, we're fading out from one clip here to the next. Likewise, if we pick a fade to black and drop that one down there in that spot, it's going to fade from one to black and then back to the next clip. Now in the case of this edit here, where we've got a talking head, me on camera, presenting on both of these clips, I really wouldn't be using a transition between the two because they look essentially the same. I'm going to press delete to remove the transition. And what I would do instead with one of our YouTube videos is I would zoom in on one of the shots just to make it look a little different, to make it almost look like it was a second closer camera angle, just to break it up a little bit for the viewers. So I'm going to select this second clip here. I'm going to come up the top to crop. Then I'm going to go to crop to fill. And then in here, when we resize this, this is what our finished, more zoomed in shot will look like. Now, depending on how you shoot your videos, this could lose a little bit of quality. So I would say don't zoom in too much or don't crop this down too much. But if we click off this now to see what this looks like, we've got the first clip that plays through, and then at the next one here, it's zoomed in a little bit. Now, to really make this transition effective, ideally you're lining up your eyes. If it's a shot like this one where you've got a person in there, if the eyes are in the same place, it's going to be far less jarring for your viewers. So I'm going to click back on here now, go back to crop. Let's see if we can line this up a little closer. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it is a lot better. So it just breaks it up a little bit for your viewers instead of having a fade or a dip to white or dip to black. Now, in terms of other effects and things that you can add into your videos, let's just select this clip here. Now, if we come up the top, then you have a video stabilizer in here, which will stabilize any of your shaky footage. If you select on that, then we can select the checkbox here, and that will take a lot of the shake out of your videos. If you want to speed up or slow down a clip, then you can do that up here under the speed controller. And we'll get to the rest of the audio and color settings here very, very soon. Okay, so if we go back to the start of our video here now, the next step is to bring in any music that we want to have in our video. So you can come over here to audio. You might already have some music that is in iTunes or in your sound effects or something from GarageBand if you've already got it imported. If not, under My Media is where you can import your music files just as we did our video files by going File, Import Media, and selecting your music tracks. Now I already have two that I've added up here, so I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to drop that down into our timeline here at the start. And you can see that it comes in as a green clip instead of a blue clip. This is how you can easily see which ones are music or audio files and which ones are video. Just like all of our regular clips, we can pick them up, we can move them around, we could adjust the start time or the end time. In this case, we can come over here to the end, we can grab our end point and let's shorten it down so that it finishes when our video finishes. Now, if we move our mouse cursor over the music track here, you can see we get this little circle that appears. If we click on that and pull it back, we can actually create a fade out. So our music is going to play through here at 100% volume level until it hits this marker, and then it's going to start fading out. So it's how easy it is to add a fade out. And likewise at the start, if you want to fade your music in a little bit, then you can do the same thing by grabbing that circle. Now, the process is exactly the same. If you want to remove a section of your music track, you could add a cut using Command B or the blade tool and shortening and refining your clips that way. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. So now that your audio is in, it's a good idea to play through your edit here, and you might find that you're making some minor adjustments, especially if you're trying to match some of your edits or some of your cuts to the beat of the music. Then now that your music track is in, you can start to refine and tweak some of these things so that it all flows. Next up, you'll want to adjust your volume level. So the first thing I'm going to do in this case is actually come down here and lower our music volume right down to nothing, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that our primary audio is set to the right volume levels first, and then we'll adjust the volume levels of our music secondary. The most important piece is that people can see us and hear us. So we want to make sure that our primary audio is set right first. So we're going to go back to the start here and let's get the audio set right on our first clip, and then we can apply that to all the other clips here all in one go. So we want to make sure that our first clip is selected. Here we're going to grab this little line across the bottom, which is our volume adjustment bar. And if we click and move it up, then we can see that we're increasing the audio, and if we lower it down, we're going to lower the volume. So where you want to get it to here, this is something that iMovie makes it simple but doesn't give you a ton of control over, is you want to get it to the point where you can see if we go too high, we're seeing yellow appear. I'll zoom in on this a bit more so we can see it closer. You can see we've got these little points here that are yellow now. That means they're getting pretty loud. If they go into the orange or into the red, that means that they are actually too loud and it's distorting and it's going to sound bad. You can see this piece here is into the red. So you definitely don't want to have your audio going into the orange or the red. If it's just every now and then just touching into the yellow, it's not going to be a problem, but definitely not in the orange or in the red. So you want to find that point for your individual clip where your volume is as high as it can be without hitting those points. Now, because our entire video here was all filmed at the same time, same camera, same microphone, we don't have to go through each individual clip and manually do this. Now we could, and we might find that some were a little bit louder than others, but what we can do is again, select our first clip, we can copy it, Command C, we can then zoom out, And let's select the rest of our clips here. We can come over to the side and we can just draw a box around them. And then we want to choose edit, paste adjustments, and let's choose volume. And that's going to increase our volume levels to match that across all our remaining clips. And then it's just a matter of doing a quick sanity check and checking out a couple of these louder parts that we can then see here are hitting the yellow and making sure that they're not going into red. Any of them that are going into red, we could just lower for that section. Now, in terms of audio effects and removing things like background noise, we can do this in here as well. So we'll select the clip that we want to make more adjustments to. We can come up the top here to this noise removal tool, and we can select reduce background noise. Or if you want to play around with the equalizer settings, these are very basic in here, but you do have some presets for boosting the bass or reducing the treble in this section here as well. And if we come across to the filters area, there's also some audio effects in here. If we select none here, then we can bring up some other effects here to create different sounding voices and echoes and different room atmospheres that we can add that effect on. So now that we have our video piece sorted, now we're going to bring back in our music. Now this is something that there really is no right or wrong with it. It is personal choice as to the volume levels you're going to bring your music in at. So we're going to grab that volume bar down the bottom. We're going to bring this back up. So if 100% is standard maximum volume, then where we normally start as a ballpark gauge is between 20 to 30% for background music in our videos. Now, obviously it depends on which audio track you're using. Some are going to be louder than others, but I'm normally starting around that place, and then I'm pressing play on the video and let it play through. And I'm going to listen, ideally with headphones on. So I'm getting a good representation of the volume levels and how everything sounds. And I'm listening to see if the music is too quiet or too loud and too distracting. And then I'm making adjustments up and down from there. It really is personal preference. Then once you've got your audio added, the next step is to color grade or color correct any of your footage. Again, we're going to do this back at the start on the first clip, and we can then apply this to the other clips. So we're going to select our first clip here, come back up the top, and in here we've got a few different options when it comes to color grading. Under this color balance area, this is where you're really going to see some automatic adjustments. In my experience, they're not that great. So where I go to is this next one across color correction, and we're going to use these three sliders here to adjust how our shot looks. The first one here will control our overall shot brightness and contrast. So if we want to make adjustments to the bright areas of our shot, we're going to grab this white slider here, and we're going to move it. You see, if we move it one way, it's going to increase the brightness of the light areas, and we move it back, it's going to darken those down. So let's increase those a little bit here. Then we're going to jump across to the dark areas, little black circle here, which is going to let us adjust and brighten or darken those dark areas in our shot. So I'm looking at the light in the background. So let's say somewhere around there. From there, I'm going to grab this middle one, which is kind of your mid-tones, and make some minor adjustments here if needed to the overall look, brightness and darkness of the shot. Okay, so that's looking all right. From there, I'm going to come across to this end slider, which will really let us adjust our white balance. So if we pick up this slider again and we move it to the left, it's going to make our shot cooler or add more blue. Likewise, back the other way, we're going to add more warmth or more yellow or orange into our shot. So let's go somewhere around there. And this middle one here is our saturation, or how intense the colors are in our video. So if we select this one, drag it all the way to the left, it's going to remove all the colors. That's how we get black and white. Go the other way, it's going to amplify them. Look a little silly. So somewhere in the middle, but you might find that you just got some minor adjustments here to get the look that you're after. So let's go around there somewhere. So for a comparison, this is what our shot looked like before, and this is what it looks like now. Before, after. Now there are some built-in filters in here as well. If we come over to this area here, we can select clip filters, and you can think of these like Instagram filters. So if any of these are the look that you're after for your video, then feel free to use these as well by selecting on them. But normally this is something that I'm steering clear of. Once you're happy with your color grade, we can select our clip, we can choose edit, copy, and then select our remaining clips, zoom out. Let's select them all here. We want to choose edit, paste adjustments, color correction, and all of those will now have that same color effect applied. Now the same tools will work for your B-roll or overlay footage as well. Just by selecting on the clips, you've then got access up the top here to those same tools. So once you've gone through and you've color graded your video down, the final step is to save out your video, to export it. So I want to come up to the top right hand corner here and hit the little share button. In here we can create an email friendly version of it. We can also save out a freeze frame or a image of whatever is on screen at this point. There's also direct export to YouTube and Facebook, where it'll save out your video to your computer. It will then upload it directly to those platforms, or we can choose export file, which will just save it out to the computer. So for me personally, I just use the export file feature here, and I'll make sure that everything is all good, and then I'll manually upload it to YouTube or Facebook or wherever the video is going to go. So we're going to select export file. You can give it a name if you'd like to. Then under video format, we want to choose video and audio. You can also select your resolution. So the default here, 1080p, is usually based off the video footage that you've been editing. So if you've been editing 4K footage, then it's probably going to say 4K here. But you can click on this and you can specify the quality that you want to output. Then once you've picked your video resolution, you can then set the quality for that resolution. So they've got presets for low, medium, high, ProRes, which is going to be the best quality setting they're saying here. It's going to be a much larger file size. So I'd say that most people are going to leave this here on high, but you also have the ability to hit custom and to specify the megabits per second or the quality of your video here as well. So let's just go back to high. And then the last one here for your compression, whether you're going to have a faster export or a better quality video. The better quality, it's actually marginal. You're not really going to notice much of a difference. So for me personally, I just leave it on faster. But if you are looking for the best quality video out of this, then maybe you'll want to pick better quality. Then you just want to hit next, choose where you want to have your video save out. So we're just going to go on the desktop, hit save, and that's going to save your video out. Now from there, you want to do a quick sanity check. You want to play back that video. Ideally, you're playing it back on multiple devices so that you know it all looks good, sounds good, and is the way that you want it. Obviously, if you've got any changes you need to make, you can jump back in here to iMovie, save those, and then save out your video again. But once you're happy with it, your video is complete. Now up in the top right-hand corner here, we can see we've got our progress for our export or our video saving out. If we click on this, it's going to tell you what it's actually doing. And the estimated time here is 1 minute for this video. So that was a complete end-to-end walkthrough using iMovie. And again, the process that I took you through was the Primal Video Method. So make sure you're downloading your free copy of that step-by-step process that you can now use in any video editing software, making your editing much faster and much more efficient. I'll see you in the next one.